Many spiritual teachers, like the Buddha, have suggested that reality is more like a dream or illusion. But if that's true, why does everything seem so concrete and undeniable? This video will explore the scientific perspective on the nature of reality and our experience of it. Keep an open mind as we dive in, but don't take anything too seriously. Think of it like an intriguing science fiction story. Whether we perceive something as real or not depends on the rate at which new moments of experience arise and pass away. What do I mean by that? Well, think about watching a movie. We all know movies aren't literally real, but when an emotional scene happens, we can still feel deeply moved and even cry. Why? Because in that moment we are fully immersed in perceiving it as real. Movies consist of individual still frames shown rapidly one after another, typically 24 frames per second. So in each second you are having 24 distinct experiences of reality passing by. This rate is fast enough that your mind blends them into a continuous moving picture that feels semi-real. Now consider the world around you. Instead of 24 experiences per second, some theories suggest it may be more like 2,400 or more frames of experience arising and passing away. At such a high rate, your continuously changing stream of perceptions blends into a seamless illusion of a single, persistent, undeniably concrete reality. Another way to look at it is that all we ever really experience is a series of still mental impressions or images, one after the next, in rapid succession. It's the speed at which new images arise that creates the illusion of motion and solidity. You can observe this for yourself. Look at an object and notice how still and frozen it appears. But then look very closely at its surface or use a microscope. You'll see it's actually in constant, subtle motion and flux at a tiny scale. All things are impermanent and constantly changing. It's just our human perception that freezes and solidifies these moments of change into the appearance of a fixed, substantial reality. Here's an experiment to help illustrate. Focus your eyes on a cup on your desk, noticing how solid and motionless it appears. Now, instead of looking at the cup itself, turn your attention inwards to the feeling or awareness in the center of your chest. Keep looking at the cup with your eyes, but place your primary attention on that internal awareness rather than on the external perception of the cup. What happens? For many, the cup will start to appear more transparent, hazy or unreal, like a picture or hologram. This happens because you've slowed down your subjective rate of grasping at and solidifying the passing stream of perceptual impressions. The more you can reside in this spacious, open awareness rather than grasping at fleeting perceptions, the more the whole world starts to appear like a mirage or projection of light, insubstantial, ephemeral, and dreamlike. There are many reports across traditions of people briefly perceiving reality in this way, where walls, buildings, and even their own body become like fluid, permeable radiance rather than solid barriers. For example, there's a story of a young Jomo Rinpoche, the famous Buddhist translator, spontaneously picking up an enormous temple roof with ease, while in a state of pure presence and non-grasping. To others, it appeared he was simply holding the massive weight in his tiny hands. But when their astonished reactions pulled him out of that state of openness, the roof instantly became heavy and solid again. This illustrates how the apparent solidity, weight, and substance we experience is shaped by our minds grasping at and reifying the flow of experience. It's like going into a very hot spring. If you tense up and resist the heat, it will feel intense and unbearable. But if you can remain soft, open, and non-resistant even as you enter the water, the experience of heat is much less extreme and may be quite comfortable. Similarly, when you stub your toe or get injured, the pain becomes intensified by your mind's fixation and aversion to it. But if you get distracted or startled, you may temporarily lose your attachment to the pain and not notice it as much. There are even documented cases of people being unaware of severe burns or injuries because their mind was totally absorbed elsewhere in that moment. This shows that the intensity of our experience, whether pleasant or unpleasant, is intimately related to how much we're unconsciously resisting and contracting around the passing flow of sensations. Now, to be clear, I'm not suggesting these ideas are necessarily true or that you should blindly believe them. I'm simply exploring an alternative perspective for you to consider. Many of these concepts can seem strange, confusing, or even threatening when you first encounter them because they challenge our usual assumptions about reality. That's okay. You can just treat it as an intriguing thought experiment, like exploring the premise of a science fiction story. The key point is that our normal waking experience of day-to-day life is just one perspective or mode of experiencing. By resting in a more open, spacious awareness and not grasping at the continuous streams of physical and mental impressions, we may be able to glimpse reality in a radically different way, as a shimmering fluid mirage rather than as frozen solid slabs of matter. Practices like meditation can help familiarize us with this more open, less grasping way of perceiving. But ultimately, the goal isn't to blindly believe any of these ideas. It's to explore them directly for yourself through your own experience and come to your own understanding. Keeping an open, playful, curious mindset as you investigate is important. Don't take it all too seriously. It's about stretching your perception and considering novel perspectives, not adopting rigid beliefs. If you can remain grounded while exploring these unconventional ideas, it may just spark insights that help you perceive the world in a refreshing new light. Even a slight shift in perception can transform your whole experience of reality. So have fun with it, but don't get too caught up. After all, as the Buddha taught, in the end all views and ideas are like passing clouds. None can capture the depths of reality itself. The key is to explore and discover what resonates as your own living truth. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of our experience of reality. I know these ideas can seem strange or even unsettling at first, but I encourage you to stay open and curious. Don't just blindly accept or reject any of it. Use it as a catalyst to question your assumptions and look at the world with fresh eyes. Ultimately, the intent isn't to provide answers, but to inspire you to live from a place of wonder, possibility, and personal discovery. When you stop taking your perceived reality completely for granted and remain open to new perspectives, you unleash your inherent potential. You start seeing opportunities where before there were only limitations. Have confidence that you possess an infinite well of creativity, wisdom, and strength within you. By staying grounded yet open, you can achieve any dream or goal you set your heart on. The keys are patience, trust in yourself, and a willingness to question the boundaries of what you think is real or possible. I'm rooting for you to recognize the power that lies within your consciousness. Don't settle for anything less than living with unbounded freedom, joy, and fulfillment. You can make it happen. Until next time.